TEFL, TESOL, CELTA, TOEIC, Delta. These are some of the acronyms that you're going to hear in the ESL industry. Hi, my name is Mr. Austin, the guy with the soprano. I have been an English teacher since 2015. I'm currently based in Bangkok, Thailand as an English teacher. I've worked in Vietnam, I've worked online, but now I'm only working on site. If you're in the industry, you definitely know more about these acronyms and what they're sectioned out for and what they do. And if you're doing your research about the English teaching industry, you have come across these acronyms and maybe you're wondering, or if you don't know, I'm here to share with you what they mean and what they do, where they belong, and the likes. One of the most popular acronym that I use all the time in almost all my videos is the ESL, which means English as a second language. Sometimes some people will say EFL, English as a foreign language. This is the industry that we are in. We refer it to that. So in this industry, there are things like the certificates that you need to get as a teacher. You also need some tests that you take if you are a non-native English speaker, and many other acronyms that are very important for you to know. But first, let's start with certificates. There is the most common one, which is a TEFL certificate. TEFL certificate stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. This is a certificate that you get to teach English in a country where English is not spoken, where English is foreign. So that is the certificate. Then you've got your TESOL, T-E-S-L. This is Teaching English as a Second Language. This is a certificate for you to teach English to non-native English speakers who live in countries where English is official. Countries like Australia, the US, the UK, Canada, and you have foreigners who want to learn English. This is the certificate that you can get and use. And then we've got TESOL. This is Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. Now, this one, you can use it in countries where English is non-native or in a country which English is native. So it's like both your TEFL and a TESOL. So you can use it anywhere and everywhere to teach non-native English speakers. So these are the most common certificates that people always obtain. And now we have another one, which is a CELTA. CELTA stands for Certificate in Teaching English to Adults. This is associated with Cambridge. It's like the premium of these three certificates. It's like your elite certificate. Most of the employers in international schools or very reputable schools would request that you have a CELTA. But many countries in East Asia and Southeast Asia, they are okay with your TEFL or your TESOL. But if you want to stand out, a CELTA is the most common, is the one that will set you apart from the rest of the other people who've got these teaching certificates. And then the other one is not very common. It's called a Delta. It's taken by qualified teachers with notable experience. Delta stands for Diploma in Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. So people don't usually go for this unless teaching English is their number one career. They want to advance. So now we know of these certificates: your TEFL, your TESOL, your TESOL, your CELTA, and your Delta. Other acronyms that are quite popular are the tests for non-native English speakers. If you are not from the 7 countries that are mentioned here, despite whether English is used daily, you were using English from a young age, English is the only language that you speak, but you're not from this country, according to our industry, the ESL industry, you are a non-native English speaker and you are required to take a test. So there is usually a couple of tests that different places or different countries or regions require that you sit for. TOEIC is a common test that non-native English speakers here in Thailand take. It stands for Test of English for International Communication. It tests your proficiency. It tests your reading and your listening skills. Usually it's up to 990 points. TOEIC is used in countries also like in Vietnam, also in Japan, and some other Southeast or East Asian countries accommodate or take the TOEIC test. TOEIC is also under the same company as TOEFL. TOEFL stands for Test of English as a Foreign Language. This one is an academic test and usually needed maybe for the United States. So it's not very common if you are going to work in Asia or in Southeast or East Asia. You only go for TOEIC. TOEFL is not usually asked for. Another test that people always ask for is IELTS, which stands for International English Language Testing System. This is a very popular test that is used all around the world. However, it also has sections. There's an academic and there's also a training one. An academic one is the one that you want to, if you want to enter into higher education or your university, and sometimes, yes, they use it in the professional setting. And also the general training one is one that immigration might need, also your works where you're working might be needed, and also some of the places that you would want to study. But most of the time, IELTS is not really required unless your employer asks for it. Yes, I do have a TOEIC. I've taken a TOEIC before, but it has since expired. I've done my IELTS. I've got a TEFL certificate, TESOL certificate. I've also got my teaching English to young learners certificates. Once you're in the industry, you're doing your research in the industry, you're going to find this terminology. They still also get me confused because we hardly ever say them in full, but we are aware of what they do or what is needed and what is not needed. Some tests, the one that I just recently mentioned, some tests are just for you to apply for school. But if you are able to take it and maybe you can present it to show that, hey, I can speak English, I understand English, I am proficient in the English language, they would most likely be accepted. But each region, they decide on the tests that they prefer individuals or non-native English speakers to take. I hope this makes sense because the top 5 are your TEFL, TESOL, TOEIC, and then your CELTA, ESL, or EFL. These are some of the acronyms that you will need to know. Just to throw in a few, NES, native English speaker. In our industry, native English speakers come from these 7 countries that I've just mentioned here. And then we have non-native English speakers, NNES, non-native English speaker. If you are not from the 7 countries that I just previously shown you here, it means you are non-native English speaker, despite English being your first or only language that you use at home. The industry does not recognize that. Then you will need to take the English test. I hope this helps. See you on the next video. Bye-bye.